Don't look. I'll tell you when to look, okay? Anyway, folks, joking aside, it's a pleasure to be here today. This is a historic occasion. I don't think when they're reading the history books there'll ever have been an occasion like this before, but we're hoping that there'll be lots more meetings like this in the future. I'd like to welcome everyone that has travelled, and some of you have had arduous journeys, and you're all very, very welcome here to the Paddocks Ballingarry, and we in Ballingarry are delighted to welcome you. So we're going to keep this simple and we're going to drive forward. So we're going to begin and we're going to have the unveiling of the historical Hibernian mosaic plaque and the side plaques. So Doogie and John Cronin are going to unveil left and right first, and then in unity across the Irish Sea they're going to unveil the middle one together. Right, lads, go ahead please. Have you got the foreheads? Good stuff. Smile, lads. Now. Okay, we'll have the mosaic now. Now, we're delighted that our parish priest here in Ballingarry, Father Tom Carroll, has been able to join us today, and I think it's very fitting considering the history of Hibernian Football Club and how there's the ethos of the club, that we have our local parish priest who has agreed to come here and to bless the historic Hibernian mosaic plaque, and Father Tom is going to do that for us now, and then he'll address us with a few words. So we really are delighted that Father Tom could join us today.
The holy water. So if you find a bottle of holy water around, to belong to me. And please return it. Now, first of all, I would like to welcome our visitors from Hibernians, and it's a noble and generous gesture on your part to come here and to honour the founder member of your club. And in doing so, you're bestowing a great honour on our parish of Ballingarry. And in blessing this plaque, we are thanking God for the friendship and the happiness and the sport brings to our lives. And we ask the Lord to continue to inspire you and to give your time and your energy to the promotion of sport and healthy living. I don't know, have you this whole saying in Scotland, but it says, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So sporting is very important for our sanity and for our friendships as well. I will just tell you a little story about these two very devoted soccer fans. And they were Catholics. And they were, wondering, no doubt about heaven that was there, but they were wondering would there be any soccer in heaven. So they made a pact anyway, and they said, look, whichever one of us will go first, we'll come back and tell the other fella. So anyways, time passed, the fella died, and he came back. And his friend said, well, Sissy, what's the news? Well, he said, I've good news and I've bad news. Give me the good news first. There's soccer in heaven, he said. What's the bad news? You're playing next Sunday. So that's it now, and well done to everybody.
Thank you very much, Father Tom, and you're always in for a good story, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much. So the next person that's going to say a few words to you is chairman of our club here. It's the chairman of Ballingarry AFC, and Dave Hannan is just going to say a few brief words of welcome to everybody.
Reverend Father, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the Paddocks home Ballingarry AFC. I'd like to formally welcome the St. Pat's Supporters Club and their members to Ballingarry. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Stephen Dunn, board member, of Hibernian FC to our club, and everyone else who took the time out of their schedule to be here with us today. We're here to honour Canon Hannan, a founding member of Hibernian FC in Scotland. This will be a lasting monument to this local man who became such a big figure in his adopted home of St. Patrick's in Edinburgh. I'm going to hand you back now to the men that put all the work in behind today, and we'll see you later on. Thanks.
Next to address us, I think I'm right in saying the driving force might be a description, or a dynamo perhaps would be another description of Mr. Dougie McLeod.
That's not too much of that drink. I'll look everybody in the eye now because for here on in I'll be reading everything on the speech. So, a very welcome to all attending today. Firstly, I'd like to thank Ballingarry Amateur Football Club for their kindness in hosting this event. Indeed, I'd like to thank all the good folk of Ballingarry for their kindness shown to St. Patrick's and the interest shown in our closest of links, your village son and our founder, Canon Edward Joseph Hannan. There are a number of Ballingarry people that I must thank by name, but firstly, perhaps thanks to both under-18 teams, Ballingarry and Rathkeil, for their very entertaining pre-event league match. I believe Rathkeil and Ballingarry are local rivals, so for the Hibs and Hearts match, say that's kind of how it goes. So I think we and the Hibs fans here could see the same friendliness between Ballingarry and Rathkeil as is played to Hibs and Hearts on any game. So again, well done to both teams. I thank two Master of Ceremonies today, Eddie Houlihan. Thank you, Eddie. Also thanks to Father Tom Carroll. Your blessing on the plaque as well, Father. Thanks very much. And so to our hosts, the Ballingarry FC committee. None of this could have been done without them. So a big thank you to Chair David Hanlon, Vice Chair Michael McNamara, Secretary John Clancy, Treasurer Rory Almaya, committee members Dean Clancy, Kevin Ford, Aidan Lynch, Anthony Camper, Niall Quinn and Ruth Kennedy. And now maybe turning to the club's Canon Hannan subcommittee, who I know these guys must have put a lot of time and effort into today. So thank you to Colin Keeley, Benji O'Kelly, Noel Ford, Mario Grady. Thank you. I think that only leaves two names. Very special mention to two men I now consider as real friends. I know these guys have put so much into the event and certainly forging links with our St. Patrick's committee, but also linking Ballingarry and all the Hibernian supporters for today and many years to come, John Cronin and Pascal Monaghan. We shout out for the Ballingarry FC main sponsor, Condren's Bar. Beautiful wee bar, you need to get there. Fantastic. That should get me my free pint. A big mention to Tom Lynch, stonemason, who put the memorial wall together. Great job. I'm sure in the years and decades to come, the memorial wall will be admired and viewed as part of our history, both here in the paddocks, but also to many a visitor that will come to Ballingarry through this commemorative wall. A big thank you too, of course, to Hibernian Football Club. Oh, that makes me so happy. St. Patrick's Branch Committee were pleased to be invited along to Easter Road a few weeks back to finalise the event arrangements and confirm the Hibernian Football Club board representative. We met both with CEO Ben Kensell and the club owner, Mr. Ron Gordon, both in full support of today's event, and they have passed on their best today. We were therefore especially pleased to know that Stephen Dunn was the board representative to attend today, and you'll hear from Stephen later. Just to say, Stephen's attendance is not only fitting from an HFC board perspective, but as he was the instrumental in the setup of the Independent Hibernian Historical Trust, there's no one more knowledgeable and a fitting man to be at this event. I can perhaps now give a bit of background to St Patrick's Branch. We were actually formed relatively recently, 2010. Usually get that wrong, don't I? 2010. And although the branch name obviously goes back to the 1875 beginnings, and of course Canon Hannan as parish priest of St Patrick's Parish, St Patrick's Church, the Cowgate in Edinburgh, the area is better known even to this day as Little Ireland. And as a St Pat's man, that brings a bit of a lump to the throat. Our branch is the largest branch within the Hibernian Supporters Association, and we have members from not only all over Scotland, but throughout the world, from Australia to America, and quite literally everywhere in between. And now we've got them in Ballingarry. Our website will tell you St Patrick's are proud to be the true home of Hibernian. And this is all down to Michael Wheelahan and Canon Edward Joseph Hannan. And we've got two relatives actually here today that are related to both Michael Wheelahan and Canon Hannan. So I'm pleased that they're here, and it's just fitting for the occasion. Both Michael and Edward Joseph Hannan, their legacy is of course everything to all Hibernian supporters. Their founding ethos is just as relevant and perhaps even more relevant today. This is something our branch is certainly proud of. The founding charitable ethos that poor young immigrants, financial refugees of their day, could be brought together in football, helping communities and playing for a football club they love. But we're also proud that Hibernian was of course the first Scottish club to wear the green and white. So if you guys do hear the other clubs who perhaps have followings in Ireland and maybe become just a wee bit boastful, just remind them, without the son of this village, the history of their clubs might be very, very different. St Patrick's Branch has put in place a great number of initiatives and events to commemorate Hibernian Football Club and their history. One event linked to today would be our members' commemorative by way of a brass plaque erected in St Patrick's Church. That Hibernian was founded in the parish of St Patrick's. Therefore, today is even more significant that we are commemorating the founding father from the village of Ballingarry who gave birth to our beloved Hibernian. Sorry, I'm getting quite emotional now. To stray slightly, it would be remiss of me not to mention a more recent son of Ballingarry, James Clancy. One of the founding fathers of Ballingarry Football Club here in the Paddocks. I was fortunate to meet James in January 2020 in an initial planning visit. I believe James was club secretary for over 30 years. I can honestly say the couple of days that I met with him, I knew I'd met a gentleman, an unassuming workhorse of the club. I was shocked to hear of the untimely passing of James later in the same year. It was therefore fitting to hear the club had named the newsstand in James's name. The small village of Ballingarry is certainly synonymous with football club founding heroes, and I'm sure James is smiling down today. And so to the Hibernian Harp plaque and memorial, gifted today to our Ballingarry friends by all the members of St Patrick's Branch. The Irish harp means many things to many people, but the Hibernian harp is an icon to every Hibernian supporter, young and old. The symbol of our roots. It's therefore brilliant that it should be returning today to its Hibernian founder's birthplace. I should mention this specific music plaque was painstakingly made by one of our very own St Patrick's Branch members, a true Hibs man, obviously an artist in his own right. We do need to pay a thankful compliment today to Mr Mark Shipway. Mark's replica Hibernian harp was originally gifted to Hibs to replace the original that once regaled the main entrance to Easter Road, which was sadly removed. The details and the timing of that, I'm sure Stephen will be able to tell you better than I can. However, it is the tale that goes with the original harp and this replica that makes this the most interesting stories. As we all know, all good fans know that we should never let facts get in the way of an interesting story. When the original harp was removed from Easter Road Stadium main entrance, it didn't go down too well with the Hibernian Irish supporters, and you can understand why. It was said that the fans were so upset that an old Irish woman put a curse on the club. The curse was that the Scottish Cup drought that the club had already been suffering for a number of years would now continue until the Hibernian harp was returned. The outcome was, more years passed. This was followed by more years, and more years, and more years. And I guess the curse of the Irish Pashogis was obviously very strong. So much so, it was 114 years later, maybe give or take a week, that Hibs had still yet never lifted the Scottish Cup. Now, this next part is the story is very important because it's absolutely true. In 2015, St Patrick's Branch were made aware there was this very replica made by Mark, now sitting in Mark's attic. Now, Mark lives in Leeds. And Leeds is 220 miles from Edinburgh. No problem. Our good member, Gordon McKinley, here today, just jumped in his car, went down to Leeds and asked Mark if St Patrick's could try and reunite Hibernian with an iconic harp. Mark agreed, and late in 2015, St Patrick's Branch presented this very harp to Hibernian Football Club owner at that time, Sir Tom Farmer. Now this is the best bit of all. With a harp back at Easter Road, and less than 6 months later, and all thanks to St Patrick's, on the 16th of May 2016, Hibernian Football Club lifted the Scottish Cup. Thank you. So this ain't any normal replica. This is the Hibernian harp that broke the Pashoggi curse and returned the Scottish Cup to Easter Road. The curse now broken, how fitting it is to bring the harp back to Ballingarry. Can I just take a few seconds to thank St Patrick's committee members, all their hard work in bringing in the Hibernian harp home. Ian McNeil, Stuart McLeod, Robert Devine, Thomas McVeigh, Liz Hare, Gordon McKinley, Susan Lynn, Alan Hosey, Paddy Power and Billy Wilson. And a very special thank you to Brian Duffy for all his hard work in this event. We asked St Patrick's Branch friends, the Proclaimers, Charlie and Craig, to attend today, but unfortunately they are currently on tour and passed their apologies. They did, however, send this message. The Irish heritage of Hibernian Football Club is vital to the culture of Edinburgh and beyond, and the reason for the club starting, poverty, homelessness and destitution still persists today. Canon Edward was a great man, and Hibernian Football Club is his legacy. Craig and Charlie. I know Edward Joseph Hannan is looking down today and is indeed proud of his legacy. I hope the people of Ballingarry, both here in the paddocks and throughout the village, also take pride in their son's legacy. Glory, glory to the Hibees.
Thanks, Doogie. A colourful story, everything true, no doubt. If Doogie was the driving force at the Scottish end, here in Ballingarry we are very lucky to have a great chairman of the subcommittee, our President John Cronin, to drive things from this side. So I'd like to thank John, and I'd like to ask John now to come forward and to make a presentation to you. Now, we're going to actually have a couple of presentations now if anyone wants to get some stats. We're exchanging jerseys. So John is presenting a jersey to Doogie, obviously on behalf of Ballingarry AFC, and Doogie representing the St. Patrick's branch. And then Doogie is presenting a Hibernian jersey to John on behalf of the St. Patrick's branch. So that's a lovely tribute to both clubs. And I think all of us that enjoy football love a nice jersey. So we have a very special commemorative, we'll call it a t-shirt, but it really is a very, very nice item, and it marks today's occasion. It will be for sale in the club website. So I think it is something to consider. If you see it there now in the photograph, it's a really, really attractive jersey, and it forms something that one always has as a memento of this great occasion. So now John is going to say a few words to you after that presentation.
Thank you, Eddie. I do give your words and Father Carol. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking our subcommittee and my fellow subcommittee members, Maria Grady, Benji Kelly, Noel Ford, Colin Kiley, and the absent Pascal Moynihan, who for his sins is in the south of France. But he will be back, and his work was very, very good. I suppose I have to start by saying the man whose stand is named after down there, James Clancy, is sadly no longer with us, and he was a huge driving force behind this project. And from personal experience, I know that James would be very, very proud of the club here today. So, the journey for me started on the 27th of February 2019 with an email that James forwarded on from our website. So the email was from St. Pat's members Dougie McLeod and Brian Duffy, who are present with us here today. And from this, I suppose the dialogue started with emails really, and by August of the same year, myself and my long-suffering and good wife Alice were in Grange Cemetery getting a tour by St. Pat's members, and then we were brought to Easter Road, and to say we felt like royalty, I have to say we were treated very, very well over there. So from this initial meeting, we established mutual goals and quickly formed a good working relationship, and indeed personal relationships, which has lasted ever since. As emails flowed over the next few months, we agreed to host the St. Pat's Working Committee in Ballingarry for a weekend trip in January 2020. This cemented our commitment to actually commemorating Canon Hannan in Ballingarry AFC in this position where we picked on the night as well. Now, while the pandemic slowed our progress, we always said where there's a willingness to succeed, there's always a way to achieve it, and what we've shown here today, we have achieved it. So, from where we started to research a man we knew very, very little about regarding his time in Ireland, local relative Tom Burke was our first call. So myself and James Clancy called into Tom Burke, and all we knew about Canon Hannan was that we were told he was born in Barrett's Bar in Ballingarry, which was previously owned by Burke's. Now Tom fairly put us right when we went in. So his knowledge was invaluable, and it was a fantastic starting point for us, and I'm truly grateful to Tom for all of this. From there we gradually got in touch with more and more people with an interest in the history of the Cannons family. One of these was a Hibs supporter, Michael Hennessy, who has been very generous with his time and research. Whether we see a book from Mike is yet to be determined, but he certainly has enough raw material for one. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mike for all his help. So who was, thanks very much. So who was Edward Joseph Hannan? Edward was a farmer's son from Ballingarry, born in Ballygrennan on the 21st of June 1836. His parents were John Hannan and Johanna Sheehy. His is a fascinating journey. One of 11 siblings that we know of, Edward was the second oldest and likely bound for the priesthood from an early age. Half of his siblings would emigrate to Australia, and he and his younger brother Joseph, who was actually 17 years younger than him, would enter the priesthood and emigrate to Scotland to support the massive growth in the Catholic population in the aftermath of the famine in Ireland. The remainder of the family stayed in these parts, and there are still a few Hannan descendants living here, some of whom are actually present here today. Ballingarry Parish in the 1830s was a thriving community of some 8,500 people. Roughly 7,000 of these lived on the land, with about 1,500 in the actual town as it was back then. Difficult to mention today, but that was the case. Being brought up on a farm, Edward would have been expected to help with the domestic tasks like milking cows, fetching water, looking after younger children, before going to the local primary school on foot or by horse and cart. As a teenager, he would have witnessed the misery of the famine, as the wretched and starving that left the Cox estate in Ballyknoe would have had to pass his front door on the way to the actual commonage land in Knockfairley Hill. The parish of Ballingarry was particularly badly affected by the famine, losing half of its population to starvation. Edward, being a teenager, would have known many of the people who died and people who emigrated through being in the church and in school. The big influences on his life at the time would have been his father John, who was a community figure, and his parish priest, Michael Fitzgerald. And actually there's a commemoration in Knockfairley, and Michael Fitzgerald's words can be read there. So this was the priest who would have probably been one of the leading religious icons for him at the time. In 1853, aged 17, Edward attended the newly opened Junior Seminary of St. Mulchins in Limerick City, where his academic results were outstanding, making him a prime candidate for further education and the priesthood. That he chose the tough route via All Hallows College in Dublin rather than the secular route via the more popular Maynooth College in Kildare was likely as a result of two other local clergymen, his neighbour Father Ed Noonan from Ballyalan and his sister's future brother-in-law, Father William Hannan from Baildabroga, which is Eddie's townland, both of whom preceded him at All Hallows and became senior figures in the West of Scotland Catholic Church. Edward entered All Hallows age 19, and after 6 years in college he arrived in Edinburgh in the autumn of 1861, where after a brief stay in the cathedral he would become a curate at St. Pat's Church, where he would spend the next 30 years serving the local community. Now, Dougie and Stephen are far more qualified to talk about the Canon's life in Scotland, so I wouldn't dare even attempt to. Finally, I would like to thank the following. Firstly, our stonemason Tom Lynch, who I think you'll all agree done an excellent job on facing off the wall surrounding the museum. Secondly, the St. Pat's Committee for all their help and generosity in donating the harp mosaic to the local community. We had the St. Pat's Scouting team, which consisted of Dougie MacLeod, Stuart MacLeod, Brian Duffy, Willie Wilson and Paddy Power. Thirdly, I'd like to thank our own club committee, who left us waiting for absolutely nothing on this project. Anything I asked for, the chairman, the treasurer, the secretary, they all came to my aid and helped us hugely, and we wanted for nothing. And finally, I'd like to thank everyone who turned up here today to mark this occasion and recognise, as we say around here, one of our own, Canon Edward Joseph Hannan.
Thanks very much, John. Now, the next part of our proceeds with another little presentation. So if you want to watch here again now, Stephen Dunn, representing Hibernian Football Club Director, and Dave Hannan, our Chairman, are exchanging pennants, which is a lovely memento for the club houses. We're delighted to receive one from Hibernian Football Club, and it'll be proudly displayed here at the paddocks from now on. So thanks very much. So now I'll call on Stephen to address you here, and we're delighted that he could make it here with us today and to join us, Stephen.
The problem with speaking last is everybody said exactly what you were going to say. It's an absolute pleasure and an honour for me to be here today. And I would like to thank St Pat's Branch for asking me along. I'd like to thank Ballingarry AFC for their hospitality today, Father Carol for blessing, and in particular Alice for the most wonderful breakfast I've had in a long, long time. We all love Hibernian. Hibernian is a Scottish football club playing in Edinburgh in the Scottish Premier League. However, its heart and its heritage is firmly placed here in Highland. At the turn of the century, yes, at the turn of the century, I was involved in helping put together the new crest for Hibernian. It was a consultation with fans who were asked to bring along and present some ideas for the crest going forward. The crest is made up of three parts. First is Edinburgh Castle. Second is the port of Leith, represented by the ship, and its motto Persevere. And the final and most important part was the harp. And it's at that stage the harp returned to the shirt of Hibernian FC. And a brief word about Canon Hannan. A humanitarian is how he'd be described today. His primary goal was to look after his flock in the Cowgate, Little Ireland. But out of that, he managed to create, along with others, Michael Wheelahan, and a group of Irishmen who played football in the meadows, an institution that is beloved worldwide, and that was Hibernian Football Club. So as not to drag this on too long, I could give you a history lesson, but I won't. Let's talk about the future. It's our 150th anniversary in 2025, and it seems to me that there would be no better place to start that anniversary than here in Ballingarry. So we have a couple of years in which to organise something. We'll certainly exchange football views, we will exchange football information, and in the relationship that I will hope that will grow from here on in. So one way or other, we will either have a football match here, football match in Edinburgh, or a big party here in Ballingarry. Given it's taken me 17 years to get over my last speech in Dublin, I think it'll be a party. But we'll let everybody else decide. Thank you very much, and good luck to all.
Now, we're almost at the end of our proceedings. Like always, there's lots of people involved, and I have a few thank yous. I'm going to fly down through it. You'll hear your name and you'll know what you did. In no particular order, I want to thank John Hennessy, Martin Donaghy, Paul Riley, Ian McKenzie, David Bracken and Mike Maguire. Also Mike McLaughlin, Katharina Crowe, Sharon Slater, Tom Wright and Lady Harrington. Also we'd like to thank Mike Ahern, Tim Noonan and Lee Merwin. Obviously we'd like to thank our club sponsors, Mike and Yvonne and family, and Heather and Molly up there with the food, and you'll be having their hospitality at their house, public house afterwards. Liz McCall of Colm Kinsella, Sean Gannon, Eamon Fitzgibbon, John Shields and the local FOSS team, Kieran Sheehan, Trevor Anderson, Niamh O'Sullivan, and our recently departed PP, Father Dan Lane, who would have been involved at the earlier stages. We must remember Father Dan. Now, from the point of view of the Hibernian lads, we were suggesting maybe the best thing is that when we're finished here a little later, that you use the bus to get down to Mike and Yvonne's pub. the bus will drop you down there. It'll just make it easier for everyone. So that's possibly the best arrangement there. Anyone else will give directions, and we're not so big, you'll find us. Obviously it is vitally important that, as Stephen said, that we have a party, and that's what we plan. Paul, over here on music, who I'd like to thank, is going to kick us off now in a moment with our opening song, and we're going to have music in the background. There's food available and hopefully good chat, and after a while then we'll move down the street to Condren. So thanks very much for your attendance. To bring our proceedings to a close, I'm going to call on Dave Hannan just to give a word of thanks and to close the official part of our proceedings.
I won't keep you, let's see you all getting thirsty. So take the opportunity again to thank St. Pat's Supporters Club for this generous donation to the harp. We're honoured to have it here, and it'll be treasured for many, many years to come. So thanks a million for that. Thanks to Stephen, and we're looking forward to flying over and back for the next couple of years. We're going to have good times ahead, hopefully. And just to finish up, I just thank all the speakers. Thanks to Tom, Dougie, John, and of course, a special thanks to our master, Eddie, here. So enjoy your evening, lads, and we'll catch you soon.